This week on Low Earth Orbit, we're talking about GDC 2015. All right, so this week we're talking about the Game Developers Conference for 2015. Last week in San Francisco, I went there, checked out some of the sessions, checked out the expo, and for anybody that doesn't know what the conference is like, it's all these people coming from around the world that work on games, that work on middleware for games. Like, so the Unity people are there, Unreal people are there, game developers, console makers, hardware makers. So like Valve, Sony, Microsoft, a whole bunch of indie guys. And they're all there to show off the games that they've been working on, the services or infrastructure that's available. And also there are these sessions so you can learn more about using OpenGL or this new thing that was announced, Vulkan, which is sort of the replacement for OpenGL. So there's all these technologies you can learn about. There's a lot of stuff about like narratives. There's like story sessions, and there's art direction, huge amount of stuff. And I don't remember the exact number. I think it's around 20,000 attendees. So it's the Moscone West, North and South. So it's really big.
Just huge.
Yeah, really big conference. And there's just tons and tons of sessions going on. And they have stuff video like later on if you want to watch it online. But like last year, what we did is we just sort of like looked through some of the games that I ran across and just kind of talked about them. So I think it's what we're going to do. So let's just get into it. We can go through some of these things. So there were the whole bunch of... There was a section of the conference where it was like combination, like game software and like some crazy hardware device running. I don't remember the exact name of this one, but it was basically you're simulating being in a blimp. so they have a box of dials here. I wish I remember.
A blimp like in space? What's going on?
Yeah, what is happening on the screen here?
I didn't get a chance to play this one, and it was obviously a really tiny screen, which is maybe sort of problematic for an expo. But it was cool because they had all the real dials there, and you're flying through the screen. Anyway.
That's cool.
We'll put it up on the screen.
And bonus points for the steampunkiness.
Right.
Hardware projects are cool.
This is butt sniffing pugs. And it's pretty much right what's on the tin. It's so it was. I mean, I think it was sort of like
what are they controlling?
So what you're seeing here on the screen is
huge tennis balls.
2 huge tennis balls. Like, you know how like at like.
And that's is that a stuffed dog butt?
It is. So you know how at Dave and Buster's you can play a bowling game where you like roll the giant, the giant ball. Yes. So, but in this case, it's a giant tennis ball, and it's 2 players, and they have the controller. Come on, this is totally normal. So you roll the giant tennis ball, and then you have 2 abilities. So, for example, like pooing or like sniffing, birds or something like that. You have 2 ability buttons, and then when you want to sniff another dog's butt, you just hit the butt thing on the controller.
Of course,
it's literally half a pug. I don't know if that comes with it when you order the game. I think this is just a proof of concept.
You actually have to bury your nose into
no,
this?
No, you can just push the button. Okay. That's fine. Yeah.
You don't have to go for that level of realism.
No. And so the developer said that like there's really no objective. You're just sort of like being a dog in a dog world, and I feel like the entire game was just a conceit to get this standing up inside GDC. Yes, sir. Yes. Butt sniffing pugs. That's correct. Yeah.
Somebody want to bet with this game.
I know, right?
All right, I'll bet you $50. You can't get a sign that says butt sniffing pugs into a conference.
There's actually a hashtag provided, butt sniffing pugs.
Of course there
is. spacebeagles.com if you want to check that out. This is all in that area of like sort of mixed software with some sort of specialized hardware device, for example, pug butts. This was, I think what was going on here, I don't think there was anything really involved here. They were just showing like the rumbling controllers and using that as like a mechanism to actually race the controllers themselves. Kind of clever.
With googly eyes.
Yeah, with googly eyes, of course. This was actually super cool. So there was a physical telegraph box on the table, and you're basically trying to send messages back and forth based on...
In Morse code?
In Morse code, yeah. So you would actually tap out, the...
Mm-hmm. I love the art style.
Thank you for tying that back to last year. That's where they came from.
Yeah, these are great. I love the art style.
Well, we've really been wearing that joke out for a whole year now.
Achievement unlocked. So it's pretty cool. I mean, like people were sitting. I mean, it's not easy. Like you actually have to listen and like hear what the code is, because it doesn't show it on the screen when the thing comes in. You just have to listen and say, oh, that's three dots, and then you have to respond with 3. What I forget what the word.
Wait. So you're just setting Morse code Between two people?
So you're receiving nonsense Morse code, and then you have to reply back with some more nonsense Morse code?
No, I think it's an actual sequence. I think it's just telling you.
Does it spell anything?
It's a great question. I don't know. I didn't hang around long enough to find out.
Interesting.
The idea is you're just basically trying to. I think it does spell something, but it's more just like you're listening for the beeps. And then you're sending the correct response. That's
cool.
good.
There's like a campaign mode where you can be like play the Morse code operator on like the Carpathia and like see the Titanic.
Campaign multiplayer. I'm sure there's multiplayer.
I love it. Have you read, not to like take us on too much of a digression, have you guys read The Victorian Internet, which is this book about the telegraph and like the invention of the telegraph?
I've heard about it.
It's really fascinating actually about like everything that you've heard about like, oh, the stuff that's happening over the internet and isn't this wild and crazy? It's like, yeah, they did this like 100 years ago with the telegraph. Like people getting married over the internet did it. Like, people have been married over telegraph, or like people having like, like they're friends with people they've never met, through the internet. And you're like, people are friends with people they never met through telegrams too, and or telegraphs. So it's just, I don't know, it's just interesting to see sort of like the same. But it was just interesting, and like I guess like the people at the time were like super convinced that like, oh well, now that you can instantly talk to anyone, there just won't be conflict anymore because you'll just talk to people and it'll just make everything go away. And you're like, that sounds kind of familiar.
I'm from the future. I'd like to talk to you about that.
I have bad news for you.
This is just another forum for people to argue about things. But with animated cats, so it's great. Okay, next up. So this is the thing you told us about.
Yeah.
The Keep Talking, Nobody Explodes. It's super cool. I didn't get a chance to play it. Everybody wanted to play it. But I don't know, maybe you can explain the premise better.
So yeah, I think the way it works, you've got this guy here and he's wearing the Oculus Rift VR headset, and he can see a bomb that he needs to defuse. And then the guy with him has the instruction manual for the bomb, but he can't see the bomb. And the guy who can see the bomb can't see the instruction manual. So he has to sort of talk out loud and say, okay, I see like a red wire and a blue wire and like a switch. And then he has to be like, cut the red wire and then the blue wire, but not the yellow wire, or like whatever. And I don't know. So it's like how it would actually be probably if like someone was trying to talk you through defusing a bomb in real life. Yeah, it seems super cool.
Yeah, so I think, this is the type of thing I'm actually hoping will take off with like the VR stuff, because it's actually something you couldn't you could do it, but it's not the same level of fun.
Sure.
With conventional.
What this actually kind of reminds me of is Space Team. You guys ever played Space Team? Oh, it's super fun.
I think we played that together.
I think we played it like while we're waiting at the movies or something, right? So it's this iOS game, and it basically forces you and your friends to become like the crew from like a 60s era like Star Trek episode. So basically,
didn't you play this too? No. Oh my god.
I've got it actually.
Yeah.
But yeah, so like you all connect your phones to each other over like, I don't know, Wi-Fi or Bluetooth or whatever. And you have like 5 or 6 like different little controls on your phone, and everybody has a different set of controls.
Right.
And then instructions will pop up where it's like, reverse the deflector array. And so you don't have the button to to reverse it. So you have to shout out, reverse the deflector array. And whoever has it has to be like smashing the button. Like, okay, I got it. But if you don't do it, the ship explodes, right?
So you have a mismatch of the information that is required to fix.
Right.
And
versus the thing you have the
so
ability to do.
people are shouting at you and you're shouting at other people.
Yeah, so you have to be listening for like, oh, did somebody just tell me something that I can do? But then you also have to be looking at the instructions to shout out things to other people.
Which is awesome.
This totally ought to be our next episode.
God, that'd be fantastic.
Man, actually, it'd be really fun just to do it for the next episode.
We need to get like a bunch of people.
Yeah, totally.
But it's funny because like if you've ever seen a video, maybe we'll do this, but if you've ever seen a video of it, it's hilarious because it just like looks like people shouting crazy stuff at each other. It's like, this is a great idea.
See, if we actually do it, we should get someone's like Think Geek, like Star Trek uniform t-shirt.
Really, let's do it. Let's get serious here. If we're gonna do this, let's do it.
I think we pretty much have to go all out, right?
All right. Moving on. So there's some just like quick hit things. There's no deeper discussion. This is a thing called Gummy Mommy, and I believe you're actually just a mummy in a first person mummy type experience. It actually looked fun in sort of like a cartoony way.
A popular genre, first person mummy.
The FPM. You don't know about FPM?
Gummy Mommy. So
what's the gummy?
I think he shoots that beam of gummy. I think that's his weapon, basically.
Oh,
of course.
Another traditional mummy weapon.
I think it's best not to overthink Gummy Mommy.
With a name like Gummy Mommy, I am led to believe that this is highly historically accurate.
Maybe it's based on some sort of food line. I don't know. Maybe there's a food line coming. I don't know. Okay, moving on. So this is called Foxtrot. At first glance, it kind of looks like a Infinite Runner, but I think there might be kind of more to it. Anything about the visuals that occurs to you?
Love the art style.
So I didn't get a chance to play this one, but it looks nicely done. I I'd like to see the full version of the game later on. By the way, a lot of these games, like people are saying that they're going to be done in like 2016 because it's stuff they're working on the side. So these aren't necessarily always in a finished state. I think this is one of them.
I'm curious to know it like takes us beyond your usual like Infinite Runner because just from the video it's hard to tell.
I think the second player is maybe I'm wrong about that. And I thought there was a second player element to this, but anyway. Okay, so this is a super cool game.
Wow, that looks awesome.
Another Fox game. There's a lot of Fox things going on. So this is super cool. This is called Seasons After Fall, and the mechanic in this game is that you can switch between seasons at will.
Oh man!
So you'll like need to go up somewhere, and you'll switch to autumn, which will give you wind, and you fly up there, and then you need snow for something, and then you need summer and spring for something. Super gorgeous. The guy I talked to the developer. They actually did this game called Blocks That Matter. I don't know if you ran across that. It was sort of Minecrafty in a way. But he said that one of their inspirations was the UbiArt thing. So when we played Rayman, that was that engine, right? So he did the same sort of thing where it's sort of this raster artwork stretched over a skeleton.
That looks
in vector
fantastic.
space. Yeah, it looks super cool.
The mechanic reminds me of. Did you ever play the? Yeah, it's cool. Did you ever play the Zelda games for Game Boy where it was like?
Minish Cap?
No, well, I didn't play that one, but maybe it has a similar thing. I think it was like. Maybe it's like Oracle of Ages or something.
Yeah, I think it was the same series.
It was the same sort of thing where it's like at some point in the game you acquired some item that allowed you to like jump back and forth between time. And one of it was basically like two games that sort of came out at the same time. And one of them you got some item that allowed you to like go forwards and backwards through time, and you had to use that to solve puzzles. And there's another one that let you change the seasons, and that was another way you have to solve puzzles. So it was the same sort of mechanic.
Wasn't that? I never played Day of the Tentacle, but it didn't have a time travel aspect to it. I remember running across that recently. I thought that was one of the main game mechanics. It's like you would have to like jump forward in time and do something and come back and do something. You played that game, right?
I played I had the like trial for it or whatever, so it was like the first like level or whatever. I don't remember there being any time travel, but it wasn't. I didn't get very far. It was, like one of these things like where they see you run for some other game. There was like this little like saw the trial of one of their
which they still do, by the way.
The best was oh my gosh, what was it? I feel like we had a stack of CDs from
PlayStation Magazine or something.
No, it was a Mac magazine. And so
Mac Addict.
Was it Mac Addict?
It was Mac Addict. It would come with all kinds of stuff.
The disc with the C. The disc. I loved the disc.
But there'd be games on there like every time.
Yeah.
Okay, that was our Mac Addict.
No, it was great.
Were we going somewhere with that?
I don't know. Are we going anywhere with anything we talk about? I don't know.
How did we get onto that? That was an amazing tangent.
I thought we were actually like headed somewhere, and I think we.
No, Day of the Tentacle. Ask about Day of the
Tentacle.
That's right. Time.
Oh, that's
right.
Yeah. Okay.
So one thing I noticed that's different, just speaking generally, is that like last year there was a lot of crazy stuff. Like Sony announced the Project Morpheus thing, which is their VR thing, and there was like the Oculus was a big deal. And the strange thing this time is that like Oculus has been out for like a while now, and like a lot of booths had it. The Sony thing had been out. And there were even more VR devices. So like Valve announced its Steam VR device. And apparently the deal with that thing is like, in addition to the goggles, you also have these sensors that you put in the room. And as you move closer to the sensors, it detects that as like walking in the game. And it can scale. So they said if theoretically, if you have like a warehouse, you can have a really immersive experience, but you need like a minimum, I think like 6x10 or something like that.
But for every like step you take in real world space, you move like a lot further in game space.
I don't. You couldn't. Not normal people could try it there. So I don't know how the details of that work. They also said that they think it's going to be possible to do that with like in the release time frame. It's going to be possible to do it with like multiple people, which seems super scary. You're walking around in the room. Wow, this is so immersive. Yeah,
seems like a great way to ruin some very expensive headsets
or people.
Well, that's too.
Yeah. So anyway, so there was that thing. There were some other VR devices. There's so many I can't even remember the names of all of them. So it was weird. It wasn't like the same level of tension that I remember from last year because two things had happened. There was two new consoles that had just come out. So Xbox One and PS4 had just come out, and a lot of the sessions were talking about like their like post-mortem on these like brand new platforms. Like how did we do this? And a lot of like AAA games had shipped, and it felt like we were a little bit of a lull this year because I think what's happening is that a bunch of these sort of second wave of next gen games are going to come out like middle of this year, so they don't have anything to talk about.
They missed the comments basically.
There were tons of sessions on Sunset Overdrive, which is that game that you.
Oh really?
Yeah, there was like 6-7 sessions on that, which is crazy that a game usually wouldn't have that many sessions. But I think what happened is they saw, well, we really don't have anybody else to talk about this stuff, like because there's some games that are coming out this year that are pretty big, and I don't know if you guys are familiar with these, but there's one called The Witcher 3, which is a big I think a Polish company.
Okay.
But their series is big.
Yeah, I've heard of it.
Yeah. So they have the third iteration coming out, and then the new Batman games coming out, and there's like a whole bunch of these things that were sort of like moved from end of last year to like mid, June, right. May, something like that. So I think a lot of those games, those people weren't ready to talk about them. So the floor, I mean, there was plenty of stuff to see, but it was interesting compared to last year. It was like heavy into like VR and like AAA console stuff, and there wasn't that much. Like there was. The only game that they were showing, that Sony was showing that hasn't already been released, was Bloodborne. So this is Dark Souls. Have you heard of Dark Souls?
Oh, yeah.
It's like this very difficult, I guess, sort of dungeon crawler kind of thing. And this is their new game from the same developer. But that was the only one that like wasn't already out. Okay. And everybody was crowded around that thing. But there wasn't the same level of like, oh my God, we've never seen this stuff before. Yeah. It's like Oculus every 5 feet. So I didn't feel the same level of like, this is the future kind of thing this year. It was still fun. I'm still totally glad I went. But that was just the thing I realized as I was like walking around. It's like a lot of the stuff seemed like, oh, okay, yeah, this is kind of like, last year, a little bit refined. I did put an Oculus thing on at, I think, the NVIDIA booth. Mm-hmm. The thing that struck me, and I don't know for sure, maybe I was using an older version of the kit, but the screen is not high resolution. Like it was, like you could definitely see the pixels. Oh. And and I thought immediately view it's like, well, okay, let's see, it's motion sensitivity, big pixels, and probably first-person shooters for days. So probably not going to be your thing.
It's got to be first-person everything, though, right?
Yeah,
I mean, like that's really the only thing that works on these.
Anyway, so the demo they had set up was like this, like you are a dinosaur, like in the dinosaur age, and I think the specific demo was like you're in the nest of a dinosaur. You're like an egg. So you had just hatched, and you have to like peck the other like dinosaurs out, and like your parent dinosaur comes over, and it was kind of crazy. It was a little bit like a dream I had. But it was funny because it's really, they have this enclosed space.
I just have this picture of like, we need to make our video console better than drugs, and like, well, we can probably do that. How about if you're a dinosaur egg, not a dinosaur egg?
They probably had that meeting while on drugs. I'm sure it worked better. But it was funny because like they just had this little enclosed space for this dinosaur thing. One of the things you have to do is like walk closer to your eggs and like tap, and it's like it's really easy to just hit your head on the TV.
Do you have to like move your head?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
But it is, so the one thing that is cool is, and maybe you don't see this in videos a lot, is like you can turn it all the way around. Like turn around, look up, look down, and it is convincing from that perspective. But yeah, the pixels were quite big, and I don't know if they're gonna have that fixed.
Is that just because they can't, like, they have to hit like insane frame rates?
I think that's what it is.
Like, yeah, because if you think about it, like if you drop a single frame, you're gonna be like,
yeah, right? Well, not just that, but it's like if you can't feel like you can get away with a game, and even on the podcast we get away with 24 frames a second because there's no expectation that it's going to be like really high refresh rate, and if it has a cinematic look, that's okay. But in this case, like the whole thing is that it has to feel real,
right?
And if you have any kind of like separation between real world frame rate or like perceived frame rate and what's in the game, it's at best it's going to be not convincing. At worst, it's going to be uncomfortable. Right. So yeah, I think that's what it is. They can't go super high. Hopefully, by the time these things ship like later this year, they'll have sort of that kicked up. But it struck me. It was. I was like, wow, is this normal? Because like it didn't look very good. So I don't know.
I'm not sold on the whole VR thing.
Yeah. I don't know. I think
this feels like 3D movies, but worse, right?
Maybe. Yeah. I'm keeping an open mind. I mean, there's a lot of interesting experiments in that area. I haven't seen like the game yet, but there's a lot of investment in that idea, and I think that game is coming, and we just maybe haven't seen it yet. It maybe. Seems, I don't know. Okay, let's move on. Right. So I have a couple of these booth shots. So they were showing, I believe this is the new Blizzard like MMO that they showed.
Oh yeah. No, it's not an MMO. It's like a Team Fortress 2.
Sorry, not MMO. I can't think of the name right now, but it's like it's like an arena battle thing, but third person. Look pretty cool.
Overwatch? No.
That might be it. I think they'd rename it though.
Okay.
Oh, so they announced Unity 5, which was a big thing. A lot of people were into that. I think I don't know the details. I just like looked through the list of things. It seems like just better versions of stuff that was there, pretty much.
I think the big news is like pricing changes to both Unreal and Unity. Is that like now I think Unreal has like no monthly fee, and you don't actually owe them anything at all until you cross some like gross revenue thresholds, which is a big deal.
I think it's nothing up until $3,000 gross revenue, and then it's 5% after that.
Yeah.
Oh, so one other thing that's kind of it's a small area, but one thing that's kind of cool is they have this like mobile like video game museum that they set up.
That's cool.
Last year was some different stuff. This year it seemed to be mostly kind of like Atari era. So they had like a bunch of the old Atari 2600 stuff. I mean, I never had any of that, but it's like it seemed cool, like kind of seeing it.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because I think you kind of get used to, oh, this is all so new, and it's like you look back at the old stuff, it's like it's kind of the same ideas, It's definitely better graphics and better everything, but still, it's like if you read through some of the like advertisements and the literature they had sitting out, it's like to them it was as big of a deal.
Oh yeah.
Then as it is to us now,
totally.
It felt like it was like at the time it was like video games were the thing, and we think of that
16-bit color. It's the future.
Those are some big integers. Let's not joke around.
Have you guys seen? There's this video that I saw in the last couple of weeks where I didn't realize there's still kind of like a demo scene going on for like Super Nintendo.
Oh, Super Nintendo.
Did you see this?
No.
Holy smokes! I was looking at this and like
you should probably specify the demo scene thing. I think
so like I guess the whole demo scene thing is that people will take this old hardware like Ataris and Commodores and stuff, and they will do just like graphics demos, like audio demos, and they're not games. They're more just sort of like
art pieces.
Yeah. But they'll do things. It'll be like, that's not possible in that hardware. Like, there's no way. They'll do stuff like crazy, like spinning 3D cubes or like texture mapping on a Commodore, and you're just like,
and like 10K,
what?
right?
Like what? Yeah, exactly. And they have like no memory to pull this off, and like no, like they have to like pack all these instructions or whatever, and then you're just like, that's not possible.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I saw this video of the stuff on the Super Nintendo, and I was just like, I mean, I know the Super Nintendo is more powerful than like those even older consoles.
Yeah.
But still, I was like, I don't think that that's possible. I mean, clearly it is possible because they were doing it, but you're just looking at it and like, man, if they'd known you could do that back when it came out, like what kind of games would they have done with this?
Well, I think they just blast through all the abstraction layers, right? They're just writing like the lowest level everything. So it's like not sustainable. It's like a game development approach.
No, not really. Yeah, but it's pretty cool. I'll have to find the link and you can maybe put the little sample of it in there. So it's super cool.
Yeah, those are always like mind blowing. It's always like, wow, I don't think I'd want to do that. I mean, it's impressive, but
it's super impressive.
Let me see. I'll run through some of these. Oh, so this was interesting. Do I have I think I have the video with the name of the thing. Okay, well, I'll have tipping goats in the background. I don't even know what that is.
Is this Slam Dunk something?
Yes, that is. I'll look up the exact name, put it on the screen, and put it in the show notes. Okay. But the cool thing about this is like it's a weird mashup of like a bunch of different like Super Nintendo era. Oh, there it is. Super Slam Dunk Touchdown. So they combine a bunch of different sports.
It's like basketball.
Yeah. So they took like like NBA Jam or something like that, but they took like the conglomeration of all those like 16-bit era games and like put them into one. So you have like the soccer guy playing against the hockey guy. It looked pretty cool. It was a small game.
That actually
it looks like fun.
Really fun.
It looks like fun.
It's like Calvin Ball the game.
So this is interesting. So this game, let me see if I have the. Oh, it's right here. Clockwork. So this looks pretty gorgeous, and he was talking about the fact that I think the main game mechanic here is it's like time traveling kind of. So you can have number of instances of your character. So you can have like one version of your character runs through the top of the level, and one version of your character goes through the bottom of the level, and they can use that to like coordinate, like having somebody hold a switch and having somebody else press a button.
There's another game that we saw, I think maybe last year. No, wasn't it like Super Time Force or something? Was like a game that was kind of like
I haven't played that. It might be like that. Yeah. I remember the Ratchet and Clank games like did this sometimes.
Oh, really?
But it's interesting because it makes you kind of think fourth dimensionally as you're going through the levels. You're like, okay, this time through the game this time through the level I'm gonna hit the button, but I know that next time when I go through I'm gonna like press this lever or whatever.
So you're controlling one instance of your character each time
at a time, and so you have to basically set yourself up so that on the final run through you can get through. It looks actually super pretty. I think it's going to be done sometime in like 2016 or at the end of this year. But it just seemed like an interesting kind of approach to stuff. There's this game called Feist. It looked like kind of a combination of like Limbo style graphics and maybe a little bit of like Badland. I don't know if you saw that mobile game.
Oh yeah.
Looked pretty cool.
It's beautiful.
I like the rain effect. It's cool.
Yeah. I didn't get a chance to play it, but it's promising.
That's neat.
Through the Woods. So this was interesting. So this is this again I think is going to be done sometime next year, but it is like kind of has this like Stephen King kind of feel to it.
Oh yeah.
It's a narrative. It's like a first-person narrative thing, or I guess third person. You can see your character, and they don't really give you a lot of information about what's going on. I think you're just kind of working your way through this mystery. But the interesting thing is that the voiceover is your grandmother like relaying the story to like a police officer. And so as you're walking around, you know, she's basically saying like, yeah, then she went into the cabin, and then you like went to the cabin. So it's like reacting to what your actions are, which seems like it would add to the creepiness level quite a bit.
That's cool.
Yeah, so promising.
I like games that kind of do like that flashlight effect. Like,
yeah,
I don't know why that's
Alan Wake, I think, was the other one. I don't know if you saw that one.
Did you play? You played The Last of Us.
I didn't. I played a little bit, enough to know that it was not my kind of thing. Oh, really? It's just too dark for me.
Yeah. There's a couple scenes in that game where your character, you take out a flashlight and like you're walking around through a building, and the flashlight kind of starts to go, and the game basically prompts you to like take your PlayStation controller and actually like tap it against your hand, like you're tapping the flashlight, and it causes the flashlight to come back on. Yeah. But like every now and then, like your flashlight will kind of be like, it kind of like wears down. You have to just like smack it to get it to come back. Yeah. It's one of those cool touches where you're kind of like, it's in some ways it's completely gimmicky.
Yeah.
But in other ways it's kind of cool where it's like, oh yeah, I guess, you know, like there's sensors in there. You can sort of like approximate that motion in real life.
Yeah, Alan Wake was another one of those where you actually would use the flashlight to actually like stun the bad guys.
Oh, sure.
Anyway, okay, so Festival of Magic, this was interesting. It's sort of a Final Fantasy kind of thing, and they had a Kickstarter project, and they were showing it. It looked pretty nice. A lot to say about it yet. So this was pretty funny. I'll have to look up what the exact name of this thing is. You know the Street Fighter level where you like kick the car?
Okay.
So this is like a Kinect power. I don't know if it's actually Kinect, but something like Kinect, where you actually like on screen you're kicking the crap out of the car. So you do all these like anime moves, right? So you like put your arms up in the air and like bring down a fireball, and you like punch. So he's punching the. Yeah. So you can see he's like punching the car. It's kind of fun. I mean, it's like he's got a fireball there.
It seems like a cool toy.
Yeah. Oh, this is Fable Legends? I think it's like, so the Fable series, I don't know if you're familiar with it. It was classically like this third-person RPG thing, but I think this is like multiplayer, like arena kind of stuff. It looked pretty cool. It was originally the Peter Molyneux design, but he's long since left the series. So,
what's the whole thing? Have you been following? I feel like there was some interview recently with Peter Molyneux. Where like the interviewer was like kind of a jerk, right?
Yeah, I think it was Rock Paper Shotgun. Yeah, I mean, and it's funny. Tim Schafer came on a video blog or something later and was kind of like, you cut these guys some slack. Like making games is like super hard. And I think what it came down to is that they had an estimate of how long I think it was Goddess, how long it was going to take to do it, and it was a Kickstarter project, and they kind of realized it wasn't financially viable. And so they kind of like backed away from spending a bunch of time on it, and people felt like, well, you can't just do that.
Did they release the game at all, or did they just massively reduce the scope?
I think that's what it is. Okay. Yeah, I mean, it was even when the Kickstarter project came out, I think it was pretty close to. I mean, it's been out for like a year. A version of it is, but they had, I think, some other bigger plans for what to do. Yeah. And maybe part of this is because Tim Schafer, like we played Space Base TF9, right? And that's from Tim Schafer's company, from
which also didn't really pan
Double
out for
Fine,
them.
right? Exactly. They kind of cut off and say this isn't making money, and we have to pay these people,
Right. Unfortunately, like Molyneux does kind of have a reputation for like over promising and under delivering a little bit, which doesn't help.
Yeah, but I mean, he said, the Fable games I actually liked, and he led those. And
I haven't read the interview, but I mean, you probably shouldn't like rate this guy across the coals just for like being excited about the project. But
Dungeon Brothers, so Super Dungeon Brothers actually. So it looks kind of like Diablo, but like a little bit more cartoony, a little bit more kind of Mario. Kind of fun. I didn't get a chance to play it, but it seems like it'd be a cool. I think it's a local co-op thing.
Yeah,
so it looks fun. So Amplitude is from, I think, the Harmonix guys. So the guitar or not guitar, Rock Band. And it's like a spaceshipy thing. So there was a much better take on this. There's a game called Thumper, and it is two people. One of them was from Harmonix. Another one is actually in a band. And I think I have some video in here somewhere. But it's one of the prettiest games I've ever seen.
Okay.
And there's like this like soundtrack. So you're basically the soundtrack is in sync with the things you're doing in the game. So when you need to take a turn, you'll hit. There'll be a beat in your ear. So you can take the left, right, left, and you're gonna hear bump, bump, bump. As you're going through. Have to see it. It's very hard to describe. It's super impressive.
Interesting.
Oh, this was kind of interesting. So there was a company there that was basically doing 3D printing out of sand.
Oh,
which is interesting because you end up with these like very sort of tactile creatures. And I think they were there basically as a way to do merchandising for these game companies. I think this wasn't like a consumer thing, right? This is like
They're talking to the game developers like, don't you want to have like figurines that go with your games?
Yeah, and it was cool though. They had they had some of the machines on site, and they had a bunch of these models that they had pulled out of games. Pretty impressive. Cool. Here's some Last of Us guys, the models, the busts, and it has a different sort of presence to it, because usually the 3D printed stuff is very plasticky, and this has more sort of I don't know how to describe it, like a more fine grained kind of feel.
Interesting.
And this is one of the last things I ran across was they have these, like, you can't really see in the video, but they're these tension wires on these gloves. So basically they can detect how much force is coming out.
You can kind of see it on the guy on the left a little bit.
And they were using it in this boxing game. This is a Kickstarter project for this right now. And they were using it as a way to sort of like determine how much force, to hit the boxer with. But they said there's a bunch of potential applications like fitness and that kind of stuff. So kind of cool.
I was going to say, if the tension's high enough, you might actually get a workout a little bit.
Exactly, yeah. Do these real fast, but yeah, they gave us a doggy bag for the butt sniffing pugs, which was,
of course. Oh my gosh, that's fantastic.
Yeah, that's pretty great.
That's so clever.
Yeah, it's fantastic. There's the Gummy Mommy thing. So the one thing I totally forgot to mention, but was one of the coolest things, is so I met the Simogo guys, and they had these postcards out, which is like these little like illustrations and stories. So on the front, it's like some of the islands, right?
Yep.
Show the but so the thing they told me, and I did not know, and I don't know if any of you guys knew until I text messaged you, was that if you're playing through The Sailor's Dream and you get these text passages, if you hit the AirPrint button, it doesn't just print out the text of the stuff you're reading. It actually prints out these illustrations, which is a whole different story parallel to the text.
This is awesome. I wish I had an AirPrint printer.
Well, I don't even know if you have to print it. I haven't had a chance to try it. I think it shows you on the screen before it actually prints it. Does it not? I don't know, but we should try it. So I think it's like a little Easter egg thing. I think it sounded kind of interesting. And they were super cool. It was fun to talk to them, because obviously we've enjoyed, Device 6. Well, I guess you guys enjoyed Device 6 more than I did, but we all enjoyed Sailor's Dream, and talking to them about like some of the sound stuff they did and the music stuff, and like,
you said, didn't they have a session that was about the audio of Device 6? That was,
I didn't make it to it, but they did have it, and I'm sure
that seems cool. If they do publish a video for that, I'd be really interested to see that.
Let's see if there's any other kind of quick little things here. So this was okay. This actually is worthwhile mentioning. So one of the cooler game concepts I saw was this thing, and it's called, I don't know if the game is actually called this. I guess it's actually called Holy Potatoes, a Weapon Shop. I don't know about the name, but the idea is really cool. So you know how like when you're playing an RPG and you go to the item shop and you like, say, I need a new sword or whatever. So this game is, you are from the perspective of the merchant. So it's basically, it looks like, in some ways, it actually looks very similar to Game Dev Tycoon. So you have the isometric view, and you've got your little shop, and you've got your employees, and you'll have one guy who focuses on like the material gathering, and one focuses on the crafting of the weapon, and another's like the enchanting person.
Wow, this is great. I kind of had an idea for a game like this a while back, but it wasn't like fantasy themed, but the idea that like you would sort of like manage like a little factory.
Yeah,
so that's cool.
So I played actually a little bit of it, and it's like super well polished. I mean, the art style is really cool. The game mechanics are fun. Like, how like when you're playing Game Dev Tycoon, you're like, how could this possibly be fun? And like you start playing it, it's like, actually, it's kind of cool. You kind of get this whole thing going. So the idea.
So I totally, when you first explained this, I totally imagined it was like a Rosencrantz and Guildenstern are dead kind of thing, where like you're like.
Wait, hold on. What did you say?
Say that one more time.
Have you heard Rosencrantz and Guildenstern are dead?
No.
I feel like you're saying something backwards.
No, it's two names. Somebody and somebody are dead.
Rosencrantz and Guildenstern are two characters from Hamlet.
Okay.
And they're like,
I know what you said. Those are like the messengers or something.
Yeah,
right?
well,
and like,
they show up there. They're his childhood friends, but they're messengers. And then like the other king wants to like have Hamlet be killed, but instead like, through some various trickery, like Hamlet ends up getting them killed instead.
They literally kill the messengers, you're saying?
In fact, he does. And so like there's like this whole movie called Rosencrantz and Guildenstern are dead, which is Hamlet retold from their point of view.
That's awesome.
So they sort of show up in the middle of this like the weird like middle of Hamlet, and they leave again, and then they're killed in the end. And so I kind of imagine this was like that, where like you're like the guy at the weapon shop, and like some like hero comes through battered and beaten, and like clearly like off some like huge mission, and then you have to
you see Link from Zelda, but only when he comes in to like buy more bombs, right?
There is some of that. So the way it works is that you actually do you build the weapon, you enchant it, whatever, and then there's different like shops that you can go to and sell it, like in the
franchises.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. So you have like one of the heroes come at you, and you say, and he says, "I'll give you 1,200 whatever's for this thing. It's like, okay, I'll sell that. And then you take the same way as in Game Dev Tycoon, you take the money back and you can reinvest in new employees or new materials or whatever. Gorgeous. Yes. Well, it's cartoony style, but actually really, really well done cartoony style. And it was a lot of fun. And they have this adventure timey kind of character. So I think
that's cool.
It sounds like something we would all kind of enjoy. So we should check it out when it comes out.
What was the game from a while back that you were telling me about where you run a video game arcade from the 80s?
God, yeah, that was an Xbox game. I never had a chance to play that. We should dig that up. Yeah, because that looked awesome.
It'd be cool if there was a Mac or PC version.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think overall, like I said, I think this year it felt a little bit more toned down compared to last year because there wasn't like a new console just launched and like the VR stuff. It's like everybody had Oculus Rift at every booth almost. So that there wasn't that same level of craziness. Steam had their new thing, but nobody could try it.
Their VR thing.
Yeah. So like last year, Sony had their new thing and you could stand in line and like see it, but like the Steam stuff like was not available to people. So there wasn't really like, there was no one big thing people were like trying to see. There was like a new version of Unity. There's this Unreal stuff and there's new VR stuff and there were interesting things to see, but there was no like the one thing, that came out. So if you want to contact us, you can first find all the old episodes online and the audio episodes, video episodes, contact information, all that kind of stuff at lowearthorbit.fm. On Twitter, you can find us at Low Earth Show. YouTube page, we're inching towards our 100 subscriber goal, and we're going to do. I forgot to talk about it beforehand. I had a really good idea for a retro thing. So once we hit 100 subscribers, we're going to do another retro thing. In the past, we've done Fifth Element, we did Ridge of the Lost Ark, and then Groundhog Day. Yeah. Yes, absolutely. And so we have another one at 100 we're going to do. And so youtube.com/Low-Earth-Show is where you can find that. And feel free to subscribe there. I think we're at 82 right now. Phone number. We have we need to record a new voicemail, but what's our phone number?
We have a voicemail line. You can call us and leave a message and we'll play it on the show. And the phone number for that is 573-880-4420.
We accept all major credit cards. I'm just like blinking. Call now and you get an extra Low Earth Orbit for free.
As far as I know. It doesn't cost anything above and beyond what a regular phone call costs.
So yeah, you should, if you have like some thoughts on GDC or you saw one of the episodes we did recently, you had some different thoughts on one of the games or movies we talked about, just feel free to leave us a review and we'll put it on the show. Yeah. And I think it's pretty much it. See you next time. This week on Low Earth Orbit, we're talking about GDC 2015.
I had a super awkward face.
I'm good.
More awkward than normal.
I am a little amused that we have a studio monitor. Moving on. This one doesn't involve Fox. Whoops, that's not a game. This is just some
advertisement.
What's this one? I think this might have just been some random B-roll stuff I shot. I don't think I know what this one is.
And that's is that a stuffed dog butt?
It is.